All right, we are live. It is October 5th, and we are going to chat real quick about community outreach for Backdrop CMS. The goal for community outreach is to get as many people talking about Backdrop as possible. For those of you who are on our newsletter, you'll notice we sent out a mailer today about Backdrop 1.8, which is pretty good. It's been 2 weeks plus since the release of Backdrop 1.8, and we had no critical issues that caused instant bug fix rollout, which is good. So we sent out a newsletter. Left in related tasks, we also need to push a new 1.8 branch to Pantheon so that the Pantheon upstream has that. Now that everybody's probably wanting to try 1.8, we should make it easy for them to do so. But that's pretty good because now we can focus on content for next newsletter. So I had a couple of ideas this is for roughly November 1st newsletter. I was thinking we could either do a bad camp recap, since we'll need to tell people about the trainings, the summit, and the sprint that's going to happen on Sunday after bad camp. Or if the Conservancy has all of our signed copies of the agreement, we can start to come under control of that organization, and we could have a blog post and a newsletter specifically about what it means that Backdrop's part of the Conservancy. So I sent a follow-up email to our lawyer last week to see how that was going, to see how many copies of that document he'd received. I haven't heard back, but I'll follow up again today to see if he's got them all yet or not. For blog posts, we have a fantastic new blog post that came out this week from BW Panda, who finished converting his personal blog, this is Peter Anderson, to Backdrop, which is pretty exciting. There's a little documentation about some of the problems that he ran into while doing it and solutions that he used as workarounds, which is good. And then, of course, the blog post about Backdrop 1.8 coming out also got published recently. Other things, next week, hopefully we're going to get Backdrop into the PHP weekly newsletters. There'll be another announcement there about Backdrop 1.8 coming out, and that will link to the Backdrop news announcement about 1.8 on our site. And then we have started the CiviCRM 3-part blog post where I saw Herb Dould's post on their site, which is pretty exciting. I've also seen a draft of a post that Jack's writing about a site that they use Backdrop and Civi together on recently, and I think it even talks about some of the contributions to WebForm CiviCRM, which will be pretty exciting. And I'm not sure what's coming for the third one on that. It might be one from someone at Civi. It might be something else. I hope it's not something I have to write. If so, I'll follow up them and find out what it is and make sure that third one comes out too. I was thinking, so we have this video section that we had mentioned about a year ago that we wanted to start writing videos on tutorials on how to do stuff on Backdrop. But I was thinking it might be advantageous to, rather than having like big webcast style videos, doing just little tiny short snippets that highlight things that you like using in Backdrop or things that you've done that you think are pretty cool. And one of the things that I really want to do like a 30-second video on is the status indicator icon, because I often will log into Backdrop sites I haven't been on for a while, and that indicator is like the first thing that's like, oh, by the way, you should check this out. And I'm like, wow, I really love the status indicator. So I thought that might be kind of a fun little, like, one of my favorite parts of Backdrop is this thing. And having a little, 30-second bit or even 5-second bit would be something that would be easily digestible, might be well suited for something like Twitter or Facebook, where somebody isn't sitting down to watch an hour of Backdrop training, but having a little snippet of like, check out this cool thing on Backdrop might also be good in terms of outreach. And if we have lots of those, then it'll kind of start to paint the picture of like, look at all the cool things that are happening on Backdrop, and it doesn't require an hour of training in order to pick them up or see what they are. So I wanted to try that today, see how that goes. Next on the list are events. So next upcoming event is Bad Camp, which is pretty soon. Bad Camp itself is October 18th through 22nd. And there's a backdrop summit on the 18th, a backdrop training on the 19th, and we're going to try to do a sprint on the 22nd, just the day after Bad Camp. So I guess Bad Camp ends on the 21st. And then the night before, we're also going to do a backdrop versus Drupal 8 talk at the San Francisco Drupal users group, which I thought would be kind of fun. We can use that to kind of tell people if they want to know more about backdrop, they should come to Bad Camp. If they want to know more about Drupal 8, they should come to Bad Camp. But it could be a fun sort of a lead off for the rest of that week. And I think that was it. The only other thing on the list that we'd talked about beforehand was having it maybe be a good thing to have some kind of a pop-up banner specifically for backdrop that we could use at the backdrop summit or maybe at the training, something a little more signage or something that could work for a booth setup or something like that that we could have and send to events. But I don't think we've had anyone who volunteered to design such a thing. If that's an urgent thing, we can probably reach out to Darius, who's done a bunch of design for us before, and see if he'd be able to whip something up for Bad Camp. I didn't think it was super important. It was kind of nice to have, but I don't know how you feel. If you think we should get that, Nate.
No, I don't think it's super important.
Okay.
It is just kind of a nice to have, especially last year. I know the sign that was delivered for the Backdrop Summit, I mean, was just like every other sign that was delivered, but because our logo is black and the color scheme of the camp was also darkish, like you ended up with this sign that was
dark,
little ambiguous. Exactly. And so I think having a sign that we can depend upon would be a good idea, just as like a backup. Of course, we could also just be a little more hands-on about the signage at Bad Camp and make sure that doesn't happen again.
It might be too late by now.
That's true.
Okay. Let's see. We have some notes on here too. Backdrop CMS Summit, to try and figure out what we wanted to talk about at the summit this year, whether it should be sort of a fixed schedule like it was last year. If we do some kind of bar camp style thing where at the beginning of the day we can kind of take a feel of who's in the room and what they want to learn. I thought it was really good that we had a bunch of speakers lined up last year, because if there are people who are new, they don't necessarily know what they want to learn. Mm-hmm. But we should reach out to folks and make sure that we have those ready now if we're going to do that same thing again. And if we want to do something a little more bar campy, we need to make sure that all the people who are in the room are able to kind of present on the fly about something that they might not have otherwise been prepared to present about. So making sure we can kind of feel out the people we know are going to be there and get them primed for talking.
Yeah. Do we want to add should we brainstorm in this document, do you think, or should we have a separate location where we just make suggestions?
So I think this is just a copy of last year's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put a little note at the top saying that schedule is expected to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also kind of remember, it's funny, like how short the day is, actually. Like, we've got time for, in this schedule from last year, 7 sessions, but half an hour is a really short amount of time to be presenting. And maybe that's good, that we are shifting topics pretty regularly to keep people's interest and they can have a variety of topics. But we also could probably manage to have fewer sessions as well, fewer and longer ones.
Yeah, I like the half-hour format because number one, if we're asking random attendees to present, it feels like it's putting less of a burden on them. Number two, it also gets us like a wider diversity of speakers so that we can have a little bit of everything, which I think is good if we don't know who's going to be attending. So I don't know. I mean, I think maybe we could keep the half-hour format for the morning and then do like an hour-long format in the afternoon or something. Yeah, I don't know. I just wouldn't want somebody to be like, this session isn't relevant for me and it's a whole hour, I'm just going to leave.
Right. Yep. I agree. I think the shorter sessions are better. I was just saying is contingency. If we have trouble filling the sessions, we could just extend the length of them.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. Like I know when Brian, Bootfitters Brian, did his presentation, like he probably would have been hard pressed to stretch that into 45 minutes or an hour. So a nice half hour makes it, yeah, like you say, low pressure for people that otherwise might not be comfortable presenting.
One thing we might do this year that we didn't do last year is do something that's a little bit more hands-on for people, where we could let them ask like sort of a Genius Bar style, like you have specific questions about how to do X in Backdrop that might relate to their own sites, and have like smaller breakouts where it's like, you want to talk about content moderation, come to this table, or you want to talk about whatever. And then we can kind of look more specifically into a specific issue and see what the recommended approach would be and how much work is involved. Whereas I think last year there were a lot of people who were kind of curious about Backdrop, but they didn't necessarily have things they were working on. This, we might be able to do something that's a little more like working sessions. I mean, that might not be of value if everyone in the room isn't at the same point.
Yeah, it's also, yeah, I agree. It could backfire a little bit on us, and we might just lose people early.
Yeah. I mean, I think that kind of happened last year too with the like core developer talk, where a whole bunch of people are like, this isn't for me, and left.
Oh yeah, totally. Yep.
So I think trying to do something different this year would be good, something that is more for the people in the room. We could do more case studies. We could do, I don't know.
Okay, well, I feel like we can separate out the work of filling out this Bad Camp Summit plan from this meeting, at least.
Okay.
These other items that are in the other ideas section of the agenda, have those been covered in previous meetings yet?
I think we did talk about Backdrop for Good in the last meeting. I think we also talked about Platform SH in its Backdrop template. But I think I wanted, in case Jeff wanted to talk about them, since I think he added them into the agenda. Let's see if he's around. But for people who are curious, Backdrop for Good is an organization that's going to devote 10 hours a month towards working on a particular site. So there's a form on the website that's asking, like, do you need help if you're a nonprofit? And then there will be a follow-up about trying to figure out like an exact scope and set of features that could be worked on. And then the Backdrop for Good team would devote 10 hours a month to building and maintaining their site long-term and make sure that they get what they need out of it. So there's a Twitter account, Backdrop for Good with number 4, and a Facebook page, Backdrop for Good. If you're interested, you can follow there. If you need help, you can go to backdropforgood.org, I think. Yeah. And submit the application. If you're a developer and you want to contribute, I think you can also state your interest in working on that there. Andy, if you have a question, you can go ahead and type it into the chat if you want.
Can I speak as well?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're here. Go ahead.
Right. My question is really, I know the outreach meetings are been going regular. Sorry, I haven't been able to attend to them. But are these meetings supposed to help in terms of bringing in additional developers as well, or are they mostly to inform the users about Backdrop? Just curious.
Everything, really. The meetings are sort of to keep us on track with things we can do to attract people. And so people could be users, it could be developers, it could be anyone you think might be interested in knowing about Backdrop. So if you have ideas about how we can reach more developers, we'd be interested in hearing that too.
Oh, no, I don't. That was actually my next question. I actually don't have any ideas, but I think it's something that's important. We have quite a few issues, and we don't seem to be clearing them off as fast as they're coming in. So do we think that we need to be doing anything in particular about trying to attract people who are experienced as you guys are in clearing issues? And I don't feel that I have enough experience to close issues, closing and answering questions that people have. So do we have any particular plan to bring in more people who are as experienced as you are?
Are you going to answer that, Jen, or do you want me to?
Go for it.
Okay. Well, it's funny because the plan that I've been seeing put in action has largely been executed by Jen. So I'm really going to say basically what Jen's doing. And that's, I think the primary thing that we need to get more developers or just more activity on the project in general is we need to have more sites running on it. And to get more developers, we need to have more developers being paid to work on Backdrop sites. And so to that end, I know Jen has been kind of acting as a distributor of Backdrop work that her agency, if you will, has been largely like overwhelmed with work requests, and she's just been handing them out to various agencies to like get more developers working on Backdrop websites. And I think that's been a really great thing, having paid work happen on Backdrop. And as you get more, and most all of those referrals go to people that haven't been doing Backdrop previously but are familiar with 777. Some work that she's been distributing, but I'm not really sure what kind of, well, I don't know. I shouldn't probably talk about anything in case there's like some kind of non-disclosure agreements, but it is great that, I think that's a great way of spreading Backdrop around, is just getting more people paying, or more people paid to work on it. And I think that'll grow a community with experienced high-end developers.
So yeah, I can talk about it a little bit. I've got a handful of WordPress sites that have been hacked recently, and so there was a lot of interest to get those off of WordPress and onto Backdrop. And so those are sort of a good starting point for people who don't have a lot of confidence in knowing how to estimate a project. If you give them a really small project, the margin of error is going to be much smaller in terms of the number of hours you think it will be and the number of hours it actually will be. And then I've got a handful of like Drupal 6 upgrades and a handful of projects that are like ongoing work on existing Backdrop sites that I built over the last 2 years. And so because I have way too much work, I'm taking this opportunity to hand out little pieces to a bunch of different people and be like, you do this site and you do this piece and then you do that piece. And I'm acting a little bit as sort of a advisory role in all those projects. So it would be like, hey, you guys don't know Backdrop, but you can come to me if you have questions. And most of the time they feel confident knowing I'm there, but then they don't use me because they don't have questions, because it's just like Drupal 7. And it's just that kind of thing where I think developers aren't really sure how to estimate projects, and they aren't really sure whether they can do it or not until they try, and they aren't motivated to try until they have a paid project. But because I'm in this fortunate situation right now where I have paid projects that I can give to people to do, I can kind of help grow more developers. And I don't know everyone who's working on Backdrop is in this position where you have more work than you can do. So I feel like since I am in that position right now, I'm doing my best to like share the work with more Drupal developers who are curious about Backdrop or interested in working on it. So I'm doing the best I can. But I think that there will kind of need to be, one person doing it isn't going to be enough. It'll need to come from the whole Backdrop community in terms of saying like, hey, like I'm doing sites, look at what I'm doing. If your site looks like the ones I've done, that also will give people confidence to do it. And I also think the timing is a little better now, where a year ago or 2 years ago, people still weren't really sure what they wanted to do with some of their projects. And now it's kind of decision time for a lot of people. And so they're a little more willing to kind of jump in and try a project. Whereas before they're like waiting and seeing was a good option too. So.
Yeah, and then there's everything that we've been doing or trying to encourage people to do, including like writing blog posts and videos and attending conferences and giving presentations and all of those things. But I still don't think I can really understate the importance of individual evangelism as well. Like, going out and talking to people, or in the case of Jen, like talking to her clients and selling them on Backdrop, and then selling your clients on Backdrop makes more work available, and then that ends up getting distributed to more developers. So yeah, that's the best I've got.
I think what you said is perfectly reasonable, right? I'm just asking because I think it's something that we should ask. If we want to grow as an organization, I think we have to be a bit introspective and try and figure out how we can do things to grow the organization. And I haven't been to many of these meetings, but maybe we have asked that question before, but I just thought it's something that's worth raising. So if there's any other way we can think of, I have no ideas, to be honest, but I'll just bring up the question.
Yeah, that exact question is exactly why we have these meetings, actually. Because literally, like the very top of our agenda is goal, get people talking about Backdrop. And actually get people talking about Backdrop might not be enough, actually. Jen's about to change it. Get people adopting Backdrop. Yeah, grow the Backdrop community. All of those things would be valid goals. Yeah, but that's what we're asking every time we have this meeting. Like, how can we get more people using, talking, adopting? How can we grow our community? So it's always a great question to ask, and every meeting is another opportunity for us to throw out new ideas and see if we can put action behind them.
And I think going to more developer conferences that aren't Drupal is going to be really useful for us too. That's just traditionally really hard for us because we know Drupal, we don't know the rest of the developer landscape as well. But yeah, I think like talking to developers in general, there's one conference in particular called the Nonprofit Developer Conference that we go to every year that's full of people who do a whole bunch of stuff that isn't Drupal. And that's something that we've gotten a lot of really positive feedback from. And I think we should do more stuff like that that may be aligned with our goals and our philosophy, even if not our technology. And we'll probably have an easier time selling the technology to people who believe in our mission.
Just one more question. As you know, for the last 3 years, I have been constantly bugging you guys about the forums. Now, what is our official? I'm actually laughing. I don't mean to push. What is the current thinking on that? And Do you think that having a discussion forum, I mean, when you speak to your clients and so on, and they have questions, do you think that having a place to have discussions or questions useful, or should we stick to the issue queues? Or
I think that having a forum is very useful. I don't think it will be useful for my clients because my clients aren't the kind of people to go ask questions in technical forums. Maybe some of them are, most of them aren't. But I think it is really important for developers to have a place to go and ask questions, even if they aren't technical questions, even if they're just philosophical or like, hey guys, like which module should I use? Like there's I think developers have a higher level of comfort interacting in an online community than like the average client would. And having a place to do that that's not pressured like the issue queue, or it has to be reporting a bug or fixing a problem or something, is going to be really valuable, especially if the kinds of developers we're targeting are the ones that maybe aren't super experienced Drupal core developers and are going to have more questions. Giving them a place to answer them is good. Current status of the forum is that it's up. I removed bakery module because that wasn't working. But I think that you can create a new account there and ask questions. So we just don't happen to have any topics there yet. I think we even linked it from the backdropcms.org.
Wait, so it's actually operational now?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that what we had expected to do is like right now, we were hoping to get a minimum viable product up and out there, which essentially is just Backdrop with the forum module. It is Backdrop, right, Jen?
Yeah, it's not the forum module. It's just a forum content type in some fancy.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. That you literally just built it out of content types and views. That's right, which is probably better.
That was the thought. Is like, what's in forum module that we don't have in core, and do we need it or not? So it's up now. I feel like it would be a better user experience if you didn't need to have a separate user account than you did on backdropcms.org. But bakery module is the tool that allows you to sign in across both of them, and that was the module that wasn't working correctly. So rather than blocking having a forum on getting that working, I just removed bakery module. And so it's like, right now, if you have a question, you can go there and you can ask it. I feel like in order to get people actually using the forum, we need to have real questions in there so that it looks like it's in use. And it would also be good if we could set up like comment notify or something so that somebody would be able to answer questions in a timely manner. Because if there's no one on it, then people need to get pinged to be able to come back. So I think we're close.
So what do we need to get it there?
I think having somebody ask some real questions would be good, and delete all of the like lorem ipsum that's on there. And then I think the only other piece that's necessary is getting notifications sent so that when someone asks a question or answers a question, an email notification goes out to the person who asked the question so that they can come back. And that's not actually a blocker. That's just something we should add soon.
My heart into this.
Right.
And if it breaks something.
No, you did not, Lion.
So Nate, what you just missed is we were talking about like what are the blockers to actually getting the forum used.
Mm-hmm.
And the two things that I said, well, obviously getting bakery working would be nice, but that's not really a blocker. I think we need to get some real content in there. I think if we delete the lorem ipsum content and add like for real questions, people will start using it. But right now it doesn't look like it's real because there aren't any real questions on there. And that's probably preventing people from using it.
Yeah. And then there's lots and lots of things that we could do on top of that.
Yeah, and we have a list. We have a list of like sort of features and item in order of importance. But I don't want to spend a lot of time working on features until we can get some people on it, and I don't know which of those features are most important to get people on it. So we've got kind of a chicken and egg thing, where I think if we can get like.
So,
go ahead.
If you can hear me.
Yep.
For the next 6 weeks or so, I'm unemployed. I can commit my time to working on the forum.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
If we can decide what kind of questions we can put out there, I can moderate it. I can ask the questions, probably even answer some of my own questions. I can commit to getting some action on it.
Yeah.
If we can put it and just clean it up and just push it out to everyone, let everybody know, I can commit to looking after the forum for the next 6 weeks or so.
That would be amazing. Okay, I'm going to see if you have an account on here already. No. Okay, if you make an account, oh, there you are. I'm going to make you an admin. Or I guess it's called a developer. I'm going to make you a developer. And do you need access to the Git repository as well? Maybe we should do that too, just in case you need to make any changes.
Yeah, the Git repository has an issue queue too, which seems like it's a good place for like a list of functionality that we also want implemented.
I think we've already got that in there.
Yeah, we've got that already, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, here, let me just add you here too.
Maybe we could push some sort of announcement on Facebook or Twitter or everything, just to let people know the forums are up or something.
Yeah.
As soon as you're ready.
That's a good idea for our next newsletter. That's what it should be, is be like, come to the forums, and that would give us a month to add whatever basic new content we want to delete, all the lorem ipsum and whatever else. And then on November 1st, we'll do a forum blast newsletter.
All right,
does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a great idea.
I don't know if you realize or you remember, but my very first post in Backdrop 3 years ago was, "We need a forum." So it's kind of nice to hear that we're going to do something about it now.
I do remember that, actually. I mean, I remember that this has been going on for quite a long time. It's one of our most outstanding reoccurring requests, which is funny. It's not even related to code. It's just like we need a place to
related to our success. Andy, I just added you as a whatever committer to the forum GitHub project. So if you need to add any modules or change anything there, you can. I don't think it's the latest version of Backdrop. I think it's like one version behind. So feel free to update core too if you want to. And all the config should be committed as well. So hopefully that'll give you a chance. Let me know if you want a copy of the database. And I can maybe email you a link to one.
All right, that's great. I'll have a look at it tomorrow.
Okay.
And I'll let you know how it goes.
That would be fantastic. If you could devote some time to this in the next few weeks, that would be amazing if we could get it like over the finish line and actually have people using it. And I think that this would also help us like identify other areas too. Like as people start using it, there might be a forum topic that's like, I wish the forum would do X. And then like if 8 people comment on it, we know we need to do X. So
well, let's wrap up this outreach meeting as we've got the dev meeting in just a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I guess we don't have anything else, so I guess that's it.
That's it. All right. Thanks for the feedback and thanks for working on forum. And yeah, we'll see you online.
Okay. Thanks everybody for watching as well. Talk to you guys in a couple weeks. Well, or in a couple minutes.
Bye.
Bye.